This week on the podcast, we are venturing to the Caribbean. So grab your rum and let's venture to episode 108, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dissect That Film podcast, where we dissect your favorite films, film franchises, and sometimes TV. Today, we are venturing into the world of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise as we talk about the very first one, the one that started it all. And the reason we're doing it, well, there's a couple reasons. One of them is that Angela picked this franchise back when we threw a couple franchises up for people to vote on. This one got second, so we said, yeah, sure, why don't we just do this as our next franchise without doing a whole vote again. And the second reason is this movie is celebrating its 20th anniversary, which is mind-boggling to me, because I remember this coming out in theaters. I remember literally, I think I saw this movie in school like 3 or 4 times as like a, hey guys, we're doing an assembly and we're gonna watch Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like, okay, cool. And
it's historical.
Yeah, sure, sure, whatever you say. Yeah, so I'm very excited. I love this franchise, and I'm very excited to talk about the misadventures as we get farther along. But this is what started it all, so let's talk a little bit about it. But first, let me introduce ourselves. I am your host, Brett Parker. Joining me, as always, my wonderful co-host Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming.
Hello.
Hello.
Ew.
So,
wrong movie.
Yeah, wrong movie. Way off.
let's talk about our thoughts on this movie. Let's talk more about the history of this movie in our lives. Like, when do you guys remember when you first saw this? Around when you first saw this, maybe, or like what your history is with it?
You're holding out. It's fine. I understand.
Y'all act like I remember everything. I don't. I can barely remember what happened yesterday. Legit, this morning I was like, gosh, what did we do yesterday?
No, I understand.
Yeah.
That's old people talk. I understand.
It's
Me too. I'm right there with you. I can't remember 20 minutes ago.
No, I don't remember the first time I watched this. I do remember seeing it several times, like you said, in school. You know, you get these movies that everybody's like, oh yeah, let's watch this, because it's, like Dan said, historical. Like,
Nope.
Not quite. But
It does talk about a lot of like historical happenings of that period.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not historical.
No. But oops, yes. I do remember watching it several times. And I enjoy it every time.
I don't remember it in school. I don't recall it. But I do remember watching this. This come out 2003, because it was 20 years.
Yeah.
Week.
I would have still been in school.
Yeah, I don't remember in school.
Anyway, no, so they didn't show it to me in school because it was a historical thing. It was one of those things where it was like the end of the school year and there wasn't many classes. So they're like, hey, if you want to come hang out in the auditorium, we're just going to throw a movie on. And it seemed like we did it like 2 or 3 times, and it was always this movie.
Well, see, I was a junior roughly when this came out. So like senior year, you know, you get the teachers that really don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, let's watch this.
Okay. I'd be down for that.
I mean, I didn't care. We watched Romeo and Juliet. Got to see booty in school.
That movie sucks, dude. Yeah. Like, I recall it sucking. Like, I watched it a long time ago. I was like, it's better than schoolwork, but this blows.
We were just excited to see a butt. We didn't care
sure
who it belonged to.
Lusty lady. He's like, oh, it's some cheeks.
Listen, Romeo and Juliet, that was a crazy idea where they were just like, you know what, we're gonna do the classic story, but we're gonna do it in like this modern look where there's gonna be guns and gang violence and all this stuff. But it's the story; it's still there.
Yep, that's true.
So
I remember watching it at like somebody's house, grandma's, mom's, I don't know,
Probably.
but it was a good movie, and it ushered me on to the sequels, which I watched in theaters, but just not this one.
So yeah, I remember. I don't think I saw this in theaters. Actually, I don't really think I saw any of them in theaters. Because I remember the third one I was going to see in theaters because that one came out in 2007, and me and my brother were on vacation down in Florida, and we were gonna go. We're like, oh, my grandmother had like a doctor's appointment, so she dropped us off at the theater, and our mindset was we're going to see the third Pirates, and we get in there, and it was gone. It was like they had just taken it out of theaters, but guess what was in theaters? Transformers. And we went and saw Transformers, and it blew our minds.
Then you got to see the trailer for Cloverfield before it.
Probably.
It did. That's the movie it first went before.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But that's the only memory I have of this movie, like of this franchise in theaters, was going to see one and then not being able to. But I watch this movie all the time. I still do. I love it. I love all the performances, Johnny Depp especially, creating this character of Jack Sparrow. And it's one of those, it's funny because this franchise, it really goes all over the place in tone, where this one has a lot more comedic elements than once you get farther down the line with this franchise. Especially Barbossa, he's kind of like, you're supposed to be really scared of this character, but overall he's kind of funny. You're not taking that serious.
Like, yeah.
But you're introduced to him in such a like scary way. Like when we'll talk about like the ship showing up and you're like, holy shit, this is a great scene. But then you meet the crew and everything. They're all goofballs.
Yeah.
Like the crew of the Black Pearl are all goofy. But I love this franchise. Even the later ones I tolerate. I said earlier, like the quality I think of these movies will go downhill. For one, they get longer, which this movie is already 2.5 hours. And once we get to World's End, that's almost 3 hours. And it's like,
damn,
this
really?
needs to not be a thing. And I mean, I enjoy every single entry in different ways. You definitely could tell Johnny Depp's performances start to slide too. It's more, it just seems like it's more of just, he's contractually obligated to do this, especially once you get to the final one. But he's a lot of fun in this. Everybody is. And, these first 3 movies are definitely the most special of this franchise.
Yes.
So let's talk about the behind the scenes, a little bit of the behind the scenes of this movie. So this was directed by Gore Verbinski. This is actually the second movie directed by Gore Verbinski that we've talked about on the show. He directed The Ring the year before.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He would go on to direct the next 2 films in the franchise. He would direct the really terrible Lone Ranger movie. He directed, that one I don't ever want to talk about on the show. He directed Rango, which also stars Johnny Depp.
Good movie.
He directed Mouse Hunt, which is one of my favorites from him. That one was one of his early works. That was back in like 96, I believe, that had Nathan Lane. Such a fun movie. Yeah, I mean, that's really most of the note. His last film was in 2016, so it's been a while since he's done something where he did A Cure for Wellness. This was written by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, who actually pretty much wrote every single one in the franchise. They both actually wrote Aladdin, the original animated film, Mask of Zorro in 98, Godzilla 98, Small Soldiers in 98. So they wrote 4 movies technically. No, 3 movies. Mask of Zorro, Godzilla, Small Soldiers. They wrote Shrek.
Okay.
The Story for Treasure Planet, The Legend of Zorro, which was the sequel to Mask of Zorro. Yeah, they've done a lot of stuff. They unfortunately wrote The Lone Ranger. They did storyboard work for one of those kids shows that I watched a lot when my oldest was younger, Jake and the Neverland Pirates.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yep.
And
Victor watched some of that.
Supposedly they are writing the 6th entry in the Pirates films. That really the only thing I ever heard of about this was they were trying to get Margot Robbie and they were going to try to make it a lot more female oriented and focused. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Whatever they got to do, man.
Yep.
As long as it's good, all that matters.
So this movie was based on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride that originated at at Disneyland in 1967. It would then be put into Walt Disney World in 1973. There's one in Tokyo Disneyland that was put in 1983. Disneyland Paris in 1992. And Shanghai Disneyland in 2016. That one goes by a different name. I think it's like Pirates of the Caribbean Battle of the Sunken Treasure.
Okay.
And of course, this also would bring about the really popular song that we hear in this movie, but you also hear on the ride the entire time, which is the yo ho, pirates. So that was written by George Bruns. I was going to sing it at the beginning of this episode, but I don't want to get a copyright when we put this on YouTube. So that was the most you're going to get from me. But he has worked on a lot of stuff. He helped make songs for 101 Dalmatians, a lot of Disney animated films, actually The Jungle Book, Robin Hood, 1973, Aristocats, Sleeping Beauty. So big time. And Walt Disney is actually the Pirates of the Caribbean. The original ride for Disneyland was one of like the first ones that was like super involved with Walt Disney was super involved with the operation of the ride. Mm-hmm. I love it. I actually went to Disney World last year and rode it. And the baby actually got to ride it. It was like one of his first rides.
Oh.
He'll never remember it, but it was a great time. And the funny thing is that with the popularity of these movies, they actually incorporated Jack Sparrow into the ride. So he's actually in the ride periodically as you go along. It's kind of one of those things like Where's Waldo, but instead it's Where's Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, there he is. Where's his hat?
It's so fun. It's such a simple ride, but it's such a great time because you're just chilling. And then there's this one point where there's a drop and you're like, oh shit, that was unexpected. But that's about it. It's not a crazy roller coaster.
You wet your pants. Oh,
like, oh, forgot about that one.
My bladder.
So the cast. Let's talk about the cast. We got Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. I mean, what we've talked about? We've talked about Johnny Depp. Oh yeah, Sleepy Hollow. We talked about him. Have we done any other movies with Johnny Depp in it on the show? Oh Lord,
I don't know. Probably.
We have Jeffrey Rush as Captain Barbossa. We have Orlando Bloom coming hot off the tail of the Lord of the Rings films. I think Return of the King came out the same year as this film. I could be wrong. Christian Bale, Heath Ledger were also considered for the role of Will Turner, which is pretty funny since Christian Bale and Heath Ledger would go on to play Batman and the Joker in The Dark Knight 5 years later.
I think both of them would have. Well, Heath Ledger probably could have done it. I don't think Christian Bale. Christian Bale just looks too old to play that part.
Yeah, I agree. Tobey Maguire, Jude Law, Ewan McGregor, and Tom Hiddleston all auditioned for this role.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey Rush was actually the reason why he actually went in to read for the part. Keira Knightley plays Elizabeth Swann. She was like 18 when she filmed this movie. She was of the exact age that her character's supposed to be.
Huh.
Which is creepy, especially when we get to talking about the plot of this movie.
Yes.
We have Jack Davenport as Norrington. We have Kevin R. McNally as Joshamy Gibbs. I don't think is his first name ever mentioned in this movie.
No.
Joshamy.
Everybody just called him Mr. Gibbs, right?
Yeah. Oh, Zoe Saldana is in this movie. The ageless wonder that is Zoe Saldana. She doesn't look any older now than she did in 2003. It's insane. Yeah. She played Anna Maria. We have Jonathan Pryce, who played Governor Weatherby Swan. I'm trying to think of other movies. To be honest, I know he's done a lot of stuff throughout his career. He's a huge actor. But I literally only remember him from these movies.
He's like that guy that's in a lot of stuff, but he's just there. You know him. He's that guy. He's like, oh, I remember him.
I think he was in the first G.I. Joe. Not that that's one that he wants to remember. He played the president.
I think you're right.
Yeah. I mean, he's been in a lot of classics. He was in.
Is that a classic?
G.I. Joe? Absolutely. That's exactly what I meant when I was talking about that.
I'm just making sure.
I mean, he's been acting since the late 70s. He was in the original Man on Fire. Do you know Man on Fire with Denzel Washington?
Yeah, I know there was an old one.
Yeah, he was in the original. He
Who's
was in
James
Brazil.
Bond?
Brazil is probably one of his most popular films. That's a weird, trippy movie that was directed by the guy who did Fear and Loathing.
Oh, okay. Well, that
Yeah.
explains
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna say that.
I tried to watch some of that movie. I was like, no, I'm good.
He was in. I want to shout this movie out because our friends over at Doom Generation cover this movie, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen in 1988. Go listen to
Sure.
Doom Generation's episode on that. I've never seen that movie, but their episode is hilarious.
Okay.
He was in a James Bond movie, Tomorrow Never Dies.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, he's literally, I know him from these series of movies. He was in the second. He was in the second G.I. Joe. Look at that.
He was?
He was.
Okay.
All right.
We watched that one in theaters. That was like the one that took like 20 years before they did a sequel to it. Because it was the first G.I. Joe and there was a big gap between the first and the second one. Dwayne Johnson Rock guy.
Rock Johnson. That's what my oldest calls
him.
him. His name is Rock Johnson.
That's it.
Oh man, I'm trying to find the actor who played. That's him. Mackenzie Crook played Rigetti. He's the one with the wooden eye. He is the only thing I really know him from, other than this, was he played for any Office fans out there who listens to the show, he played the Dwight character in the British Office.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't even remember these guys being in any of the movies except for the first one. But apparently,
oh yeah, they're in every single one, even the newest one.
Okay.
Yeah, they're. It's wild. It's wild how many returning cast members like stuck around for the entire franchise. Like Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom come back for the fifth one. They weren't in the fourth one at all. They come back for number 5. Not in huge capacities, but they're there. They show up. Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything because crazy things happen in the third movie. But those are a lot. If you want to look up the cast for that, just go to IMDb, Wikipedia. They got a bunch. They'll tell you everything you need to know. This film was filmed in the Caribbean itself. Like they literally wanted to make sure this movie was filmed where, this movie takes place. And
that's why it's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Location,
the amount of practical effects in this movie is mind-boggling.
Yes.
Between the pirate ships and you could tell when there's CGI, of course, like especially with the undead crew. But most of the time it's all practical and it's awesome.
Well, I will say this. I was watching this and it made me think, even though this movie is 20 years old, I feel there's a little bit of the original Jurassic Park going on here. It's maybe just the way the film is shot and lit. But honestly, I didn't think the effects CG aged that bad.
No. Not for the year it came out, 2003.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell, but it's not super like cringeworthy as you see some other films that came out around the same time where you're like, eee.
Yeah.
What was the budget on this?
You're telling me that wasn't real skeletons?
The skelly bones. How they make them real skeletons move like that? It was all wires. It was mirrors.
So yeah, they filmed a lot of this on St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is I think it's a peninsula or maybe it's an island. But the reason they picked this place is because every other place they tried to scout was a tourist trap. Was literally like there was always huge hotels. And it was hard to kind of film around it because they had to make Port Royal its own thing. Like they built it from the ground up. So they found this place that's literally, it was a small population. It was not a lot of like tourists around. And so they ended up building this Port Royal from the ground up and being able to film here. But it was a pain in the ass. They had to like boat in all the equipment and stuff. It would take days and days just to get people onto set. And yeah, it was interesting. Johnny Depp says it was probably one of the hardest shoots he had done up to that point. But
I can see
not being high all the time in Las Vegas. I mean, being high all the time in Las Vegas must not have been nearly as difficult. Didn't rate as high.
You think him and Jonathan Pryce had like deep conversations about working with Terry Gilliam?
Maybe.
Like, hey man, this motherfucker's trippy as fuck.
Yeah. I wonder if they did. Like, what was your experience like?
Right?
I love doing cocaine with you, Jerry Smith. I love doing cocaine with you too, Johnny Depp. fucking.
Oh man, this this was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, who I mean, throughout the '90s and 2000s, produced a lot of bangers. We have Flashdance, Top Gun, The Rock, Crimson Tide, Con Air, Armageddon, Enemy of the State, Black Hawk Down, Pearl Harbor, Kangaroo Jack. Yeah, I'm gonna mention that movie because that movie's awesome.
Shit.
Michael Shannon, Christopher Walken, Anthony Anderson, and Jerry O'Connell chasing down a kangaroo who stole a sweatshirt. Actually, he didn't steal it. They put it on him. So it's their fault.
So anytime kangaroos get mentioned now, and I'm blaming Movie Dumpster for this, I cannot help but think of the movie Razorback that they talked about. Because it's all about shooting kangaroos in the ass. That's all the movie's about, and that's what I think of. Thank you, by the way, gentlemen.
I can't forget to mention Bad Boys.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't hit that on the top, dude.
Yeah. And National Treasure.
Yes.
He's also a part owner and co-founder of the newest hockey team in the NHL, the Seattle Kraken, which is
cool
something
name.
I did not know. And I know I'm rooting for that team because they're still in the playoffs. I'm rooting for them just because they have an awesome name.
Well, it's like Victor, because he likes football. Like he'll occasionally watch what they bring back Arena.
XFL.
Yeah. And then there's some of those newer leagues, but one of them is I think it's like the Seattle Sea Serpents or something like that, and their logo's sweet as hell on their helmet.
That's cool. Yeah,
it's dope as fuck.
Should have got some Kraken rum.
You should have got Kraken. We looked at it. We almost bought Kraken rum.
I've never had Kraken rum.
I've never had it.
It's dark.
It's awesome.
It's dark rum, so
it's probably the same tar and stuff they used to like seal the boats back then.
It's got whale blubber oil in there. We've had this saved for 300 years.
It's like that rum they find in the island. It's just fucking cloudy and shit.
So the badass music and theme of this movie was created by Klaus Badelt, who is mostly a collaborator with Hans Zimmer, who would take over for this franchise later on down the road. But I always remember Hans Zimmer being the composer for these films. And so I remember doing a little research before watching it again and seeing his name. And I was like, oh, okay. But then I saw that he literally collaborates with a lot of Hans Zimmer stuff. So I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. But this one, I think, was solely his score, and then Hans Zimmer would take it and build off of it with the later films. Because he wouldn't come back for the rest of the franchise.
Like, fuck that shit. I'm a one and done, bro.
So it premiered at Disneyland on June 28th, 2003, and then the rest of the United States, July 9th, 2003. It was 2 hours and 23 minutes. Whew. Yikes. Even though, to be honest, I love this movie so much, it doesn't feel like it. It really doesn't. It kind of breezes through. $140 million budget and grossed worldwide $654.3 million.
Good.
Yeah. Pretty good. Probably why we get a sequel. Yeah. All right. Well, do we want to hop into this plot?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get
Let's
into
do
it.
it.
So I love the opening of this movie. I love the fog rolling in and you see a ship coming out. And at first, I've seen this movie a lot, and still I was like, is that the Black Pearl? No, it's not. It's the ship that Elizabeth's on. I don't remember if this one had a name, but it comes out of the fog, and you hear this little girl singing the Pirate's Life for Me. And Mr. Gibbs comes to her, and he's like, you can't sing that. It's bad luck.
Everything's bad luck. Mr. Gibbs.
Yeah, and Norrington comes up, and he's like, that's enough, Mr. Gibbs. You could go. He's like, yeah, well, having women on the ship's also bad luck. And they're like, oh my God, it's this guy.
Even if they're small. He's like,
yeah.
Then he starts drinking alcohol.
This fucking guy. Yeah, this is the cleanest you'll ever see Mr. Gibbs.
Yeah.
So this is when you meet Norrington, and he's like a 35-year-old man who will eventually ask this little girl to marry him. Let that sink in. All right. So also,
I think it was the style at the time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this movie takes place in 1720. I never knew that.
Shit, we weren't even a thing yet.
I knew it took place in the 1700s, but I never knew the exact date. And so she finds debris. She looks over the side of the ship. She sees debris scattered everywhere. She sees that a ship is on fire and sinking. But then she discovers there's a boy floating amongst the debris, and they pull him out, and she like is sitting by him and asks him who he is. He says that or she says her name, that she's Elizabeth Swann. He says he's Will Turner, and then he passes out, and she finds a medallion around his neck. And she's like, well, he's never going to know, and just takes. How does he never find out that the medallion is gone?
Well, she's a klepto. I mean, she just takes it. He's like, I got to have it.
No, but he never
never
questions
knows.
it. Like, hey, guys, when you rescued me, I had a gold medallion on my neck. Do you guys know what happened to it? I mean, I guess at this time, there was probably a lot of dudes out there, a lot of people on these ships just like, gold. Thank you. You're never going to find out.
Probably. Yeah.
Scandy.
And I love the shot though when she kind of takes the medallion, that she looks out and you see the Black Pearl vanish into the fog. I love it so much.
Yep.
I just wish the Black Pearl was scary, like stayed this consistently scary, because like it's just creepy seeing the ship, and then you meet the crew and you're like, oh, it's not as creepy as I was imagining. I mean, they're all creeps, but it's not as scary as you meet these guys. So we then ventured, I think she says 8 years into the future. It's like 8 years later. She is, I'm guessing, 18 now.
Mm-hmm.
And she still has the medallion. She puts it around her neck, and her father comes in, because he's got a new dress. And I love the whole dressing scene where she is like, oh, it's beautiful. And then she gets dressed, and it's like, it's so tight. How could anybody breathe in this? And it's like, oh, that's the new fashion in London. It's like, does nobody in London like to breathe?
Mm-hmm.
So she's got this new dress because she's got to go. She's going to Norrington's coronation because he's becoming a Commodore. I don't know what his rank was before when we meet him, but he is a Commodore, which I'm guessing is like is he like top rank of the Navy?
It's some video game console. I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh shit!
That's all I can think of.
Well, hold on. I think the Commodore 64 may be a computer. Fuck, I don't remember. I always get those mixed up.
We're not looking.
Google for me. I don't ever have. They were very popular. Okay, Commodore consoles were very popular in the UK.
All right, so a Commodore in the naval rank is a senior. It's equivalent to a brigadier or an air Commodore. It is superior to a Navy captain, but below a rear admiral. That was a lot of words. I hope most of you guys understand what I just said. I didn't.
It's just, well, are you okay? It's the rear admiral thing got you. I'm just thinking of The Simpsons. He's like, it's Bart and Milhouse. He's like, Milhouse. He's like, come over here. He's like, oh, I can't do that, Bart. I exposed myself to all sorts of schoolyard tortures, like the wet willy or the wedgie, the wet willy, or the dreaded rear admiral. Like, what the hell is that? No explanation.
Oh my god.
Sorry,
oh Lord. So
I've been married to this one too long.
So Will shows up with a sword for the governor. I guess it's to give to Norrington at his coronation. I love how he's like fucking with the candle thing on the wall, and he breaks it and he puts it in the umbrella holder. And he's very proper. He, greets the governor and greets Elizabeth very proper. And she's like, oh, how many times have I told you to call me Elizabeth? And he's like, oh, of course, Miss Swann. And then she gets pissed. She's like, good day, Mr. Turner. And she walks out. I'm like, damn. And then he says Elizabeth, but she can't hear it.
Yeah, of course, it's apparently up her ass today, but I don't know.
No, because she said, call me Elizabeth. And then he still called her Miss Swann. How dare you?
He's just being proper, dude.
Yeah, he's being proper.
Oh man, well, this is when we meet Jack Sparrow, and he is on. You think it's a big ship, but it's not. It's a very small little boat, and it's sinking. And this is where you get to, or he goes by it's like a rock formation that's got a bunch of skeletons hanging. Real skeletons, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well played.
Yep.
Right there, you see that? See the skeleton in the middle? That's your grandpa.
I'd be pretty badass. I'd be like, Grandpa's in a Pirates movie.
Yeah. The conversation starter you want?
Yeah, he, tips his hat and he keeps going. And I love the entrance he has to the dock where the boat is so slowly sinking, and he steps off it perfectly. And then the guy still is like, hey, that's a shilling to dock your boat. And he's like, what boat?
Yes. How about 3 shillings and we forget the name?
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, welcome to Port Royal, Mr. Smith."
Yep.
So we then are at Norrington's coronation. He gets his new fancy sword and a new title and possibly a new wife. Gross. And we then get to Jack. He's talking to these two guys that are they're guarding one of the ships. These guys are in every single one too.
Yes.
I'm like, what the fuck? These guys are, it's wild.
Are these guys like a relevant, like, I know I've seen these guys before, but are they like a relevant, like, comedy group or like, because they're always together. Like, I feel like there should be like a thing.
So Murtaugh is played by, he's like the skinnier one. Giles New. Let's see what he's done. Most of his major credits are the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they were in every single one. It's crazy.
Yeah, but they're like together, so it's just kind of like.
Yeah,
oh,
I mean, they might be. I mean, they're British actors. I don't know. I'm not super versed in British TV or movies and stuff like that. But it's probably like some sort of Simon Pegg, Nick Frost type thing.
Could be.
Where they're in a lot of stuff together. The other one is Angus Barnett. He's done a lot of the same stuff as the other guy.
Okay.
But yeah, they are talking to Jack. Jack's of course trying to get onto the ship, but they're like, no, you can't get on there. And so he tells the story of the Black Pearl. Well, he kind of mentions it, and then they go into it. And just enough where they get distracted so much, Jack hops on the boat and he's like pretending to drive it like a child.
He doesn't even leave. He's just
it's so funny. This is Elizabeth faints after the coronation. She's up on the top of the thing, talking with Norrington. Norrington's talking about possibly asking her to marry him. The dress is too tight. She faints, falls off, and Jack notices it while he's talking to the two guys on the ship, and he goes in to save her.
I would have fallen on purpose.
Yeah, me too.
Are you gonna save her? Are you gonna save her? I can't swim. Pride of the Queen's Navy. Just hold these. Don't these. Jumps in the water.
It's so good. So the medallion, you get the cool scene where as she's sinking, the medallion kind of floats there and it sends off like a signal, sends a vibration through the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack saves her. He of course has to rip off the corset and all, or it's a corset, right?
It's a corset.
Yeah, and he has to rip it off to kind of get her to breathe because it's so tight. And of course, they think something else is happening, of course. And Jack is put in the hot water because Norrington realizes he's a pirate.
Because he's been branded.
Yep. And the Jack Sparrow tattoo that he has was fake in this movie, but he actually got it tattooed for real because one of his sons is named Jack, based off of this character. He also had a lot of other tattoos that they had to cover up with charcoal and stuff like that. I mean, he always looked dirty as hell. So also another fun fact about Jack Sparrow, there's a scab on his lip throughout this movie. And as the movie progresses, it gets bigger, not because of it being some sort of symbol of, oh, he must have some sort of disease and it's just getting worse. No, the makeup team just were playing a prank on him. It just kept making it bigger throughout filming.
Okay.
Clearly, he didn't care.
No, not at all.
And this is where we get the line where it's like, you must be the worst pirate I've ever seen. He's like, or I've ever heard of. And he's like, so you have heard of me.
Yep.
He makes his escape. I love all the chase scenes and escape scenes in this movie are just so cool. Where it's not just him running from point A to point B. It's literally him, he knocks the mechanism up. He gets pulled up by the rope. He freaking swings. He drops a weight onto the dock, which then a couple idiot guys are just whoa, it's just falling.
Yeah.
It's like the end of a cannon. It looked like but dude just keeps on going and then pulls somebody else in. Okay, you're not gonna stop running.
So
I like it's just those old school, it's got that Indiana Jones kind of that high action adventure film, tone to it, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I also forgot to mention that he holds Elizabeth hostage pretty much to kind of make his escape, and this is where he's like, this will be the day you almost caught Jack Sparrow, and then he makes his escape. he finds the blacksmith because he's shackled, so he's got to go try to get the shackles off. And you find out that the blacksmith is drunk and he's passed out all the time. Because earlier, when Will brings the sword, and the governor's like, "Oh, send my regards to your boss or to the blacksmith or Mr. Brown, whatever the hell he says," and he just kind of like rolls his eyes because he's like, "Yeah, he doesn't do shit."
Yeah.
Yeah, and Will then shows up and notices something's awry because Jack fucks with the donkey that spins it around. That's how he's able to break the shackles off.
Yep. And he puts the hammer where it wasn't.
Right. Yep. And his hat too.
Mm-hmm.
So Will shows up and they duel. And you find out Will is a very good swordsman.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I've read, Will is the best in the movie. Like when it comes to swordplay, like he is the best, most skilled person in the movie. I don't know how you determine this. I guess it must just be the person writing the movie. Just like, yeah, Will's the best. Norrington and Barbosa are like the equals, and Jack, I guess, is the worst.
But Jack he uses more questionable methods.
It's unorthodox ways of sword fighting. Yeah.
And non-honorific because he uses he doesn't do it with like integrity or honor. Like he cheats essentially, like what you wouldn't do in a regular sword duel where he uses weapons and pocket sand, whatever.
Oh yeah, I love when he pulls the gun. It's like, oh, that's cheating.
Pirate.
I'm pirate. But I love the fact that we're getting a cool sword fight, and then they just go into the rafters in their sword fighting. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
I love the fact though where Jack's just like, I'm gonna leave now. And he tries to walk out, and Will throws the sword, and it gets stuck in the door, and he's trying to pull it. Like, it's very comical the way he's trying to get it out, and he's just like, "Okay, nice trick. I'm gonna go now."
Yeah.
And then, of course, who is the one to take care of business but Mr. Brown, the drunk off his ass blacksmith who knocks him over the head with a bottle? And I love when Norrington shows up. It's like, very good, Mr. Brown. It's like, just try to do the cover's work or something like that.
Yeah. It looks like fucking Will just gets shit on, never gets any appreciation for his work.
Yeah, he says no love for Will. To be honest, I really like Will in this movie. I feel he progressively gets worse as these movies go along. Like he's just more of a whiny little bitch as these films go along. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know. The character seems to get slightly worse as we go through the franchise.
I don't remember as well, but yeah, I do like him in this one.
We then jump to the jail where we get the scene, which is part of the ride. It's most famously from the ride, which is the prisoners teasing the dog to get the keys, which is something big that you see on the ride. We get a weird scene that I want to talk about is the scene where Elizabeth is in bed, and of course she's cold because she was in the water, but we're in the Caribbean, so it shouldn't be that cold, right? Also, you're just gonna put hot coals inside of a bed? I get it's inside the fucking thing, but nah, that's still
That's how they used to do it.
Well, those wouldn't be the sheets wouldn't obviously at that time be made of synthetic fibers anyway, so they shouldn't melt at a high temperature.
They wouldn't catch fire.
At some point, they would reach a flash point, but they would self-ignite. I did learn about this. I just took a class on fire restoration, so I learned all about auto ignition.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm like, dude, you're putting them in something metal, which is a conductor of heat.
Right.
I don't know.
It just seems weird.
I'm assuming it's legit. I'm assuming they did the research, but I don't know. It does look weird.
So this is when we get the awesome visual of a ship coming out of the fog again. All of Port Royal is kind of coming over this fog and darkness. For some reason, the governor and Norrington are just walking along the wall that's there, which this scene wasn't filmed in St. Vincent. This was actually filmed in, I think this was filmed in LA. It was at an old Marineland theme park, like the whole fort, which I thought was pretty cool. But the fact is just like they're just walking along this wall and a cannonball comes and hits the wall, and you find out that the Black Pearl is here, and it comes in. It makes a beautiful entrance. You see it you never really see it up close other than like the backside of the ship, And then a little bit later, when Elizabeth looks out her window, you see it from a distance, and you just see the cannon fire, spreading out throughout the island. And yeah, this is when chaos ensues. All the pirates are coming through, wiping out the town, and the main mission though is to go get Elizabeth because she has the coin. Because that is what they need. So they break into the household. That freaking butler gets it bad, man. He opens the don't open the door, and he just
Yep.
She tried.
Yeah.
Rip.
They chase her all around the house. I love the one guy who always says "pop it."
Yes.
Hello, pop it.
Hello,
Tell.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's great.
Hello, Puppet.
Hello, pop it.
We know you're in here.
I love when she tries to pull the sword off the wall, but it's attached to the decoration.
Yes.
But she says parlay. She calls parlay, which means that they can't kill her. They have to bring her back to their captain, and then the captain can do whatever the hell he wants. So Will notices that she gets kidnapped. He's fighting pirates in the street, and then he gets knocked out. And for some reason, when people get knocked out, they don't get killed. Like, you figured the dude would knock Will out and then kill him. But I guess they're like, yeah, he's fine. He ain't gonna wake up for a while.
It's another trope. It's like the falling down the stairs thing where that kills everybody, and this you just bonks on the head, just knock people out.
What's your favorite horse? A bonk on the head.
Clydesdale? Nope. A bonk on the head. Hey, Puppet Pal Mitch. Sorry.
So,
Somebody's gonna get that. Somebody's gonna get that.
I also like the part where Jack is talking with the other prisoners when the Black Pearl shows up, and they're trying to just talking about all the legends of the Black Pearl, and he's pretty much telling them they're all true. And then they get a hole blasted in their wall, and they get to escape, and Jack can't get out. And then he meets his former coworkers.
I love one thing I want to point out is I don't know how accurate all the specific lingos and terms and such they use, even slang, but I love it. I don't know how period correct it is, but I love it in this movie.
Oh yeah,
they could have just been like everybody has American accents and just talks normal, but they went the extra mile.
Like this. I think Johnny Depp might be the only American, actual American, and his accent of course is not great, but I love what he does with it. He created his own little the savvy. That was just something he made up.
Oh, really?
That was his little catchphrase. But yeah, he meets his old coworkers and he finds out, oh shit, they are cursed because one of them reaches in to grab him and the moonlight hits him and he's got a skeleton arm and he's like, oh shit, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy. Kohler.
We then meet Elizabeth. Or no, we already met her. We meet Barbosa in the most it just wasn't a very fun way. He just shows up.
Yeah, I was hoping everybody else, there's all these epic entrances for other parts of the movie, except for you get a better one for him later. But
entrance of a main villain in this movie is probably the movie that will be ranked as the worst of this franchise. But I'm not going to say which one it is. But yeah, he just kind of shows up because of course she's getting threatened by it was the big zombie fight. So there are the undead ones, and then there's zombie ones, which is the really big guys.
Okay, I didn't know there's a difference.
I had to look up something real quick because I saw a couple people and I was like, is that who I think it is? So I'm gonna look it up real quick, and I'm probably gonna be wrong.
Well, I will tell you that the bed warmer is true for the time.
They probably just worried because of how long she was in the water and stuff. That she might have had a chill about her. Because I don't know what time of year this takes place. They have a cold season too. I mean, obviously, it doesn't get as cold as anywhere else.
Well, I don't think it's left in the sheets. I think it's run over the sheets to get them warm.
So maybe used incorrectly.
So probably used incorrectly, but it was used it was brass and filled with hot coals.
Ah, okay.
Or embers.
It's dangerous as fuck, dude. Stretch out, burn your damn foot. That shit ain't growing back, dude. You ain't got icy hot back then.
No.
I think you put icy hot on burns.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
That seems like you're counteracting whatever is happening.
I know it's for muscles, but anyway, just don't Why me? I'm just saying you ain't got nothing to soothe it. Like, oh, I'm gonna put my foot in the ocean. No, you're gonna get some kind of
Aloe.
flesh-eating bacteria from it in the ocean.
They grew aloe.
I don't know how it
I don't
was.
know if it grew in the Caribbean.
Find something to put in your mouth, that's for sure.
So she meets Barbosa. She shows him she has the medallion, and she threatens to throw it off, but he at first kind of acts like he doesn't care, but then she does, like she actually puts it over the ship, and he's like, "Oh, whoa, wait a second there, don't do that."
Wait, hang on a second.
And I love the whole thing where she knows about the pirate code and all the rules behind it, and he just turns, he's like, it's more like guidelines than rules.
Yep.
Like, welcome. And she also says that her name is Elizabeth Turner. And that's when, he does the welcome to the Black Pearl, Miss Turner.
Which realistically just makes the whole situation worse for her, which is great.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
No, she doesn't know.
So this is when we get the Will saves Jack. He goes into the jail and takes the door off with the bench. I was like, that is the coolest fucking thing. Because he's like, I helped build these, so I know how this can come off. You just got to pop up the... I'm like, all right, man, cool. He just takes a bench.
At least they like explained it, and it's like, I believe it. Like,
all right,
like,
cool, man. I saw him do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it.
And he then goes to Norrington and is just like, hey, what are we doing to save Elizabeth? And like, we're doing what we can do. But they're just standing there. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to go. See you later. And so they need to go find a ship. And this is when we get another scene where I'm like, how the fuck do you do this? They are on the bottom of the harbor, holding a boat over their head, walking along the bottom with an air pocket inside the boat. For one, that's a lot of pressure you got to hold down. Like you're holding that boat down, which is, it's trying to go up, guys. That's how it works.
It looks cool. It's like, oh, that's
cool.
neat, but totally unrealistic.
So ridiculous. And
it probably would have pulled them up.
Oh yeah, it would have been buoyant the whole time.
But I've seen
like above the water.
I've seen people put containers under the water, but it's been held down with weights.
Yeah, something that large, like you literally hit the water and it would just float, and you just keep going. It was
You also see in these scenes the fact that like Jack is actually really smart, but also you see other scenes where you're like, man, is he actually smart, or is he just get lucky? Because he makes really dumb decisions. But they have a plan where they're going to steal one of the ships, but they have to get it ready to sail. So they're like fucking around with it. And so they are able to get to the ship beforehand, and they all get onto the ship. And then Jack and Will swing over to the one that's already ship ready or already sea ready. And they take off, which is great. Which
is ironically the fastest ship.
Yes. And I love the commander or whoever was with Norrington. He's like, oh, that must be the the best pirate I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So it would seem.
I
think it was Lieutenant Gillette. I think he's like his little lackey.
I don't like him either.
Yeah, he's kind of a piece of shit a little bit too. Just a tad.
So Jack tells Will about his father. His father was Bootstrap Bill Turner, who was a part of the Black Pearl, and he doesn't tell him the full story, right? Like he just said he was a pirate, and Will gets all upset that he was a pirate. Yeah, that he was a pirate. And Will's just not about it.
He's like, no. He's like, it's impossible. He's like, search your feelings. You know it to be true. Like, what?
And he's literally like, listen, just because he was a pirate doesn't mean he was a bad person. Not all pirates are bad. But we're going to Tortuga, which is literally just what would this be equal to in like
Las Vegas?
Las Vegas. Okay, that's what I was going to compare it to. Yeah, it's fucking wild, man. Think of
it like the Old West.
Yeah, it's people swinging from signs in the street. You got people getting drunk. You got women with their tatas just hanging out. I was like, this is a Disney movie, right?
Like a fucking drum line, dude.
Sometimes you look at them and like, I feel like they're not real. I feel like they're like, just put these fake boobs on for me.
Man, you better strap them fuckers down. Breeze.
When you wear corset, it pushes everything.
That is true. But can
Make
they
you look
afford?
like
But
you have more.
aren't corsets expensive? So like, didn't most women not wear them back then? Wasn't it mostly like higher brow women of the time?
Uh,
I don't know.
some
We
of
don't do
these
much
ladies are
research
probably
on this show,
making,
everybody. The other way,
some of these ladies are probably making money the not legal way.
right?
Well, I mean, obviously.
So yeah, we get a couple of the women that come up and slap Jack, and he's just like, I don't know if I deserve that one. And then he gets slapped again, and Will's like, what about that one? He's like, no, I definitely deserve that one.
Yep.
He finds Mr. Gibbs, who is sleeping with the pigs. And I love it when they splash him, and he's just like, he's awake, and he sees Jack, he's all excited. And then Will throws another bucket on him. He's like, what the heck? I was already awake. He's like, that one was for the smell.
And then he does his like usual like Jackism, like waking a man's bad luck, and he has some convoluted bullshit lyrical gymnastics to make this.
He says he's gonna buy him a drink.
Yeah, but no, he has like something about, but if you wake the person sleeping and this and this and this and a drink and
Yep.
it's all this, which I love. I love that
because
part of it.
Gibbs says you don't ever wake a man.
I just think he says that and nobody knows what he's talking about half the time, so just agree with it. Like, yeah, sure.
He was already half drunk at the time.
Which he's
He
good
was
at.
just-
Yeah, which he's good at confusing people anyway. But,
Oh, yeah.
but anyway.
So yeah, he's gonna help him find a crew. Yay. So Elizabeth dines with Barbosa. The crew is upset.
He's all about watching her eat, though, dude.
Yeah, because he can't.
He
He
I
can't
know.
eat.
He's watching one of those mukbang streams or whatever they call them, where like the lady just eats a bunch of food.
Oh yeah.
That's what it's like, dude. That's like
Yes,
that was the.
It's a mukbang.
That's the.
Oh yeah, because he
step up.
looks at her so seductively as she's eating that food. She's like, oh, I wish I could do that too.
Now take this apple and put it in your mouth.
He loves apples.
This is oddly sexual, believe me. That's not what this is about.
No,
She's really
absolutely
hungry.
not. But yeah, he tells her about the curse of the Aztec gold, that they pretty much stole this gold, and then they spent it, and then they got cursed, and so they had to. So they pretty much have been spending all this time going back and finding all the gold that they spent, and they're only missing one piece.
Hey, what? Oh my God! That's the One Piece. That's the whole pot. The One Piece is real. That's the whole thing.
And it's about pirates.
It is about pirates.
Whoa, it all connects. You just got to watch 1,000 episodes to know what the fuck is happening.
A little more than that now. I still don't know what's going on.
I don't watch it, so I don't know. Yeah, so he tells her the whole fact, like, he can't eat, he can't feel, and he wants to be himself again. And so it's one of those things where, like, how much of a villain is Barbosa in a way? Like, it's just some dude trying to, like, become human again. Like, he's not the type of, like, he could live like this forever. You're immortal, pretty much, like, as you are, but he wants to be able to eat and do all the things he was able to do before, so he's just trying to get that back. And people just getting in his way, man.
Well, that's the thing, is it's almost like you see it sometimes in vampire shows where, like, you get all this power and you can do all this stuff and you're nigh invincible, indestructible, you can't die, but you lose your humanity. You can't do the things you once enjoyed. And he's literally, I know, like you said, he's like, the villain area of it is kind of gray, but he's willing to do anything to be able to have that humanity back, even at the expense of other people and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's a good motivation though. He's not like, I'm a bad guy, ha ha ha, let me be evil.
Yeah,
a little more than that.
And she then meets the crew and sees the crew for what they really are, which is just like, because you only see them that way when the moon hits them. So you see they're pretty much like skeleton people. They're like the undead. And this scene's kind of weird where she's like getting thrown around the different parts. Like she gets stuck in the wheel and then she gets like thrown on the tarp and thrown in the air a little bit. She sees like the monkey in that, the monkey is in that form too. I'm like, okay. And
seems like a stage play. Like this is what this feels like.
And that's when you see, I love the transition where he's still inside his cabin and he pops open the bottle of whatever it is, wine, liquor, and he's pouring it, but then he steps out into the moonlight and it's just, you see it going through his body and dumping onto the floor. Then He's like, you best believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner, because you're in one.
You see, the one thing though is there's a loophole, a little thing he probably doesn't mention, but I don't feel it's a fuck up, and it makes sense being cursed, is they can't feel things, right? Sensations, except for pain, because they react to getting hurt. You see the other guys do it too.
Yeah, but
and even
Barbosa, he gets stabbed later by Jack, and it doesn't faze him.
He does react to it, and he does not even then. But the other guys, when he gets the hot coals and stuff dumped on, I don't know if it's just a reaction from once being alive.
I think it's just him because it's the guy with the eyeball. He gets stabbed in the eyeball, and he doesn't react to that.
There's other people. There's other members of the crew that do it too. And I think, but that would make sense though. It's like you can't feel anything good or enjoyable. You still feel pain, and then the nothing of everything else. So I think it still works. I think it's just at the point like, yeah, you feel the pain, but there's not really a repercussion for it. Like when he gets stabbed several times, and like he seems to react a little bit, but not like a normal person would. Until of course. So
Jack meets his crew. We meet tongueless Cotton and his parrot.
Cotton.
He can't speak, so he taught the bird. Still haven't figured out how he did that. I just love that. It's like, what? And he just says random shit. You're like, it's just supposed to whatever.
And
I assume that means yes.
Yeah. And then you meet Anna Maria, played by Zoe Saldana, who is kind of in disguise in a way, but she must have some sort of Jack has some sort of debt with her. He owes her a ship. So, and then Will points out the ship that they have, and he's like, that one,
that ship.
So they are venturing through the storm to catch up with the Pearl, because the Pearl is like one of the fastest ships in the ocean right now. Like that's like one of the legends.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the parrot. What's the parrot say? That man tell no tales, which would be the title of one of the later films.
Yeah.
It's actually on my shirt that you guys can't see. They venture through the shipwreck passage because they're going to an island called the Isla de Muerta. They go there twice, by the way, which seems crazy. And so Isla is Isla de Muerta is Island of the Dead, right? Muerta is death. Island of Death. Island of Death.
One of the 5 deaths.
Yep.
There's dinosaurs on one of those islands. It's Site B.
That's Site D. Actually, I think in the Jurassic World, I can't remember what it's called, Evolution games. You know, it's like a park builder. It's kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon. There's actually an Isla Muerta. It's not Isla de Muerta. It's just Isla Muerta.
Yeah, because there's 5 different ones, and there's actually a Site C in canon, but it's not really ever mentioned. But yeah, well, I'm sorry I took that from you. I was just like, this is the first. We just need Vince Vaughn in this to explain this. In this movie, Pirate Vince Vaughn comes out of nowhere.
They don't go near the island. Yeah. They have dragons.
Yep, there you go. There you go.
So Gibbs tells Will the story of how Jack was the captain of the Black Pearl. There was a mutiny on the ship. They cast him to a remote island with nothing but his sword and a pistol with 1 shot. And he escaped somehow, and he asks, like, how did he do it? And Jack just shows up, and he's just like, turtles, and I knit he says that it was from turtles. They're like, oh, how did you round up all the turtles? He's like, I made a rope out of my back hair.
Such bullshit.
I just love Will's faces every time Jack talks because he knows he's just full of shit.
Oh yeah, so that explains the. Like he's like, I ain't no explaining about it or something. I was like, okay.
Jack and Will, they venture into the cave of treasure to meet with the Black Pearl crew, and this is when Elizabeth is like brought to the gold chest that has all of the Aztec gold in it. They pretty much have to like slice her wrist or slice her hand, get some blood on the coin and throw it in, but it doesn't work. And they test it by shooting one of the guys, and I just love it. He's just like, you shot me.
I love that because it seems like it's leading up like they're gonna kill her.
Yeah.
And he's like,
no.
He cuts her hand, and she's like, that was it? And he's like, waste not.
Yeah. Because that's kind of how you see Barbosa, where it's like, yeah, he could easily just slit her throat, did the sacrifice, and hope to God this was the right move. But yeah, he just slices her hand. It doesn't work though, because he tests it.
Yep.
We then see Jack and Will get closer to him. Will ends up knocking out Jack because he knows that Jack's probably up to something.
Mm-hmm.
And Elizabeth escapes with Will. But guess what? Jack's there. He's now part of the crew again. They have a whole talk. Jack is trying to reacclimate himself to the ship and, talking to Barbossa about everything that happened. And this is when Jack tells Barbossa that Will is the one he needs. Because Will is the son of Bootstrap Bill, which is funny because Will and Bill are the same fucking name. Yep. Elizabeth and Will, they chat about the medallion. This is when Will's like, "Oh my God, that's my medallion." Just realize that, bro. Oh my God. Yeah, I just thought it was gone. I guess that's why he never questioned it. He probably just thought it fell into the ocean and never seen it again.
That's what he says. He's like, I thought I lost it when you guys rescued me. And she's like, no, I wanted to keep it. I just smell it in my Will shrine.
Yeah. So then
where she's hiding in the closet.
Yeah.
And so Barbossa and Jack, they're planning on how to get Will back. So they're going to chase down the Interceptor, which is the ship that they're on now. And the Black Pearl is really fast, so it's catching up to them pretty quickly. And this is when we get the battle between both ships. And you see the fact that one ship doesn't have cannonballs, so they have to shove it with a bunch of different random shit.
Yep,
so forks and spoons and all that stuff, which is pretty funny, especially when they all go off.
Yeah, because they were trying to lighten the load initially, so they dumped everything. Yeah. And they realized it wasn't working, and they're like, well, just load whatever you can.
Yeah, you see, they're fighting, they're swinging back from each ship. You see, the Interceptor's getting fucking destroyed. The masts are falling. It's bad. I love when Jack is chasing after the monkey with the medallion, and it gets back to Barbossa, and Barbossa's like, thank you, Jack. And he's like, oh, you're welcome. He's like, oh, no, I named the monkey Jack. So the Interceptor blows up, and Will is trapped inside the ship. And so you're like, oh, no, did Will die? No, he literally pops up on the ship 2 seconds after the ship blows up. He swam real fast.
Well, that was a practical explosion.
Oh, yeah, you could definitely tell.
It was cool. It was really well done. So cool. I like that.
So, yeah, he tells Barbossa who he is, and Elizabeth, they get sent off. Jack and Elizabeth get sent off to that same island that Jack was sent to before.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what Elizabeth's just like, okay, so tell me, how did you get off the last time? And he was like, I just sat here until the ship came by and I flagged it down and offered him some things for, in exchange to bring me back. And she's like, fuck, really? Yep. And he's got a sweet compartment full of rum. Oh, all the rum.
Yep.
Yes. I feel like garbage, so I don't have my rum today. So next time, everybody. Next time.
I have more. I can give you more.
No, I'm good. This one will do me. It's good.
They're on the island.
Yep, they're on the island. Elizabeth has a plan. She is going to pretend to get drunk with Jack at night so that he passes out. And then the next morning, she burns everything. She burns all the rum. I just
yep.
Where's the rum? I burnt the rum. All the rum.
Yep. It's gonna make this huge plume. It's 1,000 miles, 1,000 feet high, and everybody's gonna see it. But why the rum?
True. There's so many trees everywhere. But what? How does she start the fire?
That's what I was wondering.
But two, she does a really good job at playing a drunk.
Oh yeah.
For being 18
years old, yeah.
I've been around a lot of. Obviously, the age of drinking was vastly different. It probably was around.
Yeah, there probably wasn't an age of drinking back then. It was just you're too young.
Yep.
But immediately the funniest thing is she does this and then immediately they're picked up.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. I feel like there was probably a scene they shot of the in between of them getting rescued, but I'm glad that they just was it would have been long and unnecessary.
Yeah, I've been dawdling. I agree.
We also, I love the drunk song that they sing. They sing the pirate song, but they add the words "in really bad eggs" because they couldn't figure out the words of the song.
Yeah, no.
Improv. So they are tasked with, well, Jack is tasked with helping Norrington find the pearl and killing Barbossa and the crew. They go back to the island that they were at before.
Because they mentioned that the pearl wouldn't be able to go at maximum speed because it got tore up in the last fight.
Yeah.
Stop shooting holes in my ship.
Yes.
And then also when he's on the island, he's like, that's the second time I've had to see the pearl. Someone else take my ship.
Yeah.
So Jack surprises Barbossa once again. Barbossa's like, how the fuck are you alive again? What the hell is happening?
Yep. Shows up during the thing, right?
Yep.
When they were going to do.
Yeah, they're going to sacrifice Will. Yep. And and Jack just spills the beans. He tells him that, hey, Norrington and the Dauntless crew, they're out there waiting for you. You're going to die if you go along with this.
I love, that's one of those things that you could tell Jack and Barbossa have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he says to stop him. He's like, you ain't, whatever. He's like, you ain't stopping this. And he's like, all right, your funeral. And he goes to do it and he's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like he stops. And he's like, what?
Jeffrey Rush's facial expressions every time Jack says something. Yeah. It's just like, oh,
it's so good, dude.
He's just that guy. He's that annoying little brother. You're like, oh, what? And so, of course, before they can do the sacrifice, he might as well fight these guys while they're still immortal. So he tells his crew to take a walk. And this is when we get the awesome underwater scene of the entire Black Pearl crew walking underwater with the moonlight shining on them. It's so cool.
This whole scene and the fight, it's just my favorite.
Yeah. You get you got the one-eyed, the wooden-eyed guy and his pal there. They had to dress up like women because they find the justice in the chest, and they have to distract the guys on the ship. And it's so funny because they get made because they start arguing, and the one dude just drops the umbrella and starts beating the other dude, and so it sees the skeletons. Whoa!
They murk a lot of people though. Like you see a lot of people like get taken out in this section.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth escapes from her. She was from her room. She literally tied a bunch of shit together, climbed down, and that's when her dad comes in and is trying to talk to her, and then he gets attacked by one of the crew members, and like you see the skeleton hand coming through the windows and trying to grab him and stuff, and then he ends up breaking the arm off and throwing it in a drawer.
Yep.
We then see the sword fight between Jack and Barbossa. You also see the fact that Jack steals one of the coins earlier during the sacrifice. When he stops from doing the thing with Will, you see him actually take the coin. It's very subtle, but you see it happen because later on when you see him change, you're like, was he just cursed the whole time, or did he take a coin? No, he took a coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he does like the little magic trick with his hand
Yep.
where he's like,
because he's surprised by it. So clearly this is the first time he's been like this, which I thought was pretty cool. But as a kid, that's not what I thought. So Elizabeth, she saves Gibbs and the crew. You get the whole thing where was it this scene where the cannons go off and it like stabs the fork in the one guy's eye?
No, that's during
was that during the big battle before? Okay,
yeah.
That was pretty cool. That was hilarious.
That's where I was assuming that they can't feel pain because he like pops that eyeball out like it's nothing. And that can't feel good.
Oh,
no. But he even says about it. He's like, it splinters so bad when he talks about getting him a glass eye. So he has to be able to feel something. Right. These guys, like, at least pain-wise. That would just make
that phantom pain.
Could be.
Those two guys that were on the Black Pearl that were just sitting there on the cannon. They had like a big cake on the cannon.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, we're going to enjoy some cake. But then they get distracted by the monkey because Elizabeth throws the monkey off the side. And he does like the nut smack on the freaking cannon and just whoop.
Poor monkey.
So the governor fights off people as the Dauntless fires its cannons at the Commodore. Yeah, you get this whole thing where like they control the cannons for the Dauntless, so they're just shooting at their own people.
Yeah.
And we see Jack change in the moonlight. I thought, that's a great scene. Does the trick in his hand, kind of checking himself out. Really, I thought that was cool because he gets stabbed. You're like, oh shit, Jack gonna die. But then he backs up into the moonlight. You're like, oh shit. And it's like, okay, well, And even Barbossa calls this out. He's like, well, we're just going to fight like this forever. Because now we're both cursed, so no one's going to die. We're just going to be fighting.
And he's like, you could just give up.
Yeah. So Elizabeth goes back to the cave to rescue Will by herself because no one on the crew wants to join her because they're like, yeah, part of the code is we got to leave somebody behind. We got to leave the person behind if, when things get really bad. She's like, well, I'm going. Jack and Will, they drop the coins in at the same time, right as Jack shoots Barbossa. Because this is when Barbossa gets shot, and then he kind of laughs about it because he thinks like nothing's gonna happen. But then when the coins drop in, he feels it because he moves his coat, and you can see the blood. But I love the scene where he's like wide eyed and kind of he's gonna die, and he's just like, I can feel, and then collapses. So his crew then surrenders. Well, which ones are alive? I like that they don't continue fighting. They realize that they're human again, and they're like, yeah, we're good. We don't want to die. So we're good.
Yeah, we had enough.
We're probably going to die anyways because we're pirates, and they're just going to hang us. But
we
then see that the pearl is gone because that's the whole thing. The crew took the pearl and just left.
Yep.
So Jack is going to be hanged, and Will shows up looking like a Three Musketeers character. With his with his freaking hat with the giant feather in it. I love it. Comes into play a little later. It's so funny. And he saves.
That doesn't stand out at all.
I know, it's so funny. He literally goes up to Norrington and the governor and everybody and like says like hello, and then he like runs through the crowd, throws his sword as Jack is falling, and Jack has to balance himself on the sword while Will cuts him down.
Yeah, he tells Elizabeth too. He's like, tells her I love you. Like I've loved you since forever. He finally confesses.
Yeah.
And then does. Yeah.
So Jack tumbles off and oh wait, what the hell am I talking about? So yeah, he saves Jack. Elizabeth chooses to be with Will instead of Norrington because it's just fucking weird. I like that Jack, he kind of tumbles off the side of the cliff on accident, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell.
Almost caught.
And Will and Elizabeth, they live in quotations happily ever after because the opening scene to this next movie shows it doesn't last very long. It's also weird that Elizabeth and Will are making out and the dad's just kind of sitting there like chilling, watching them doing it. Like, all right, man.
Like, no.
Yeah, because
okay, go on, Dad.
Even the Commodore is like, I'll give him a day head start.
Yeah. And Jack is back with the Pearl because he's rescued by them, and he is now the captain again. And the final line he says is he does the pirate song with the ending of "and really bad eggs," and that's it. And you get the awesome Pirates of the Caribbean theme, which is one of my favorite themes in cinematic history. And it just gets better and better as these films go on, especially the theme in the third movie. I remember being I actually own that album or that soundtrack on CD for the third Pirates because I love that theme so much. But that is the end of Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Do we have any final comments on this movie before we get to the comments?
It's really good. This is a really good movie.
It really is.
Still holds up very well.
And I have to say, that was probably one of the fastest plot breakdowns I've done in a long time.
Called it.
I don't know. It could be. I apologize to anybody out there who's disappointed it was shorter, or people who are just like, finally, an episode that's not going to be 2.5 hours long. You're welcome. Sickness helped you all out today.
Yep.
All right, we're going to go to Twitter and Instagram. As every week, we always ask social media to leave us your comments on your thoughts on this movie or the movies that we're going to be covering. On Twitter, we only got one comment, and that is from our good friend Darren Lundberg from Nostalgia Cast. Said one of the great everything but the kitchen sink blockbusters of the century. It could use a little cutting. There's no reason to visit Isla de Muerta twice. Yeah, I think you're right. But as a summer entertainment package, it's pretty peerless. And Captain Jack is one of Moviedom's most iconic creations. Holy shit, my vision was so weird there. Didn't feel like I was going to be able to read that. Thank you, Darren, for leaving your comment. Let's go over to Instagram real quick. I don't think we got anything too crazy over there, but let's see what we got. Our first comment is from the Fan Club podcast, who just said, I've never seen them. Always been curious what the hype is all about. The hype, to be honest, if you're really wanting to get into this franchise, the first three are great because they really connect with each other. Like it's one complete story between, all the returning cast members. The fourth one is interesting, and the fifth one is kind of unnecessary, but to be honest, it's actually pretty good. But we're going to get to that in probably a couple months. But yeah, check out this franchise. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, please.
And they're all on Disney Plus. So if you have Disney Plus, check them out. Or you can buy. You can buy the 5-pack collection on Amazon for pretty cheap. Our next one is from Schoening, our good friend Andrew Schoening, who says, "Oh, I'm so hyped for this one. I love these movies." Well, we love these movies too, and we love you, Schoening. Thank you so much for leaving a comment. Thank you to everyone who left comments. Make sure to check our socials every week. I usually try to post it the day before we record. If you want to leave a comment on the movie we're covering, please do. It's fun to read what people thought of this movie. We get, there's times we cover movies that we like, and we get comments about how they don't like it, and I love that. I love the fact that everybody's got varying opinions on movies. We're never going to judge you for it. We might joke around, but it's never to be serious. But we appreciate all the love and support you guys give to the show. This was fun. I apologize. I'm going to apologize if I sound like shit, because I feel like shit. But you know what? The show must go on, and I was good enough to do it, so here I am. Yeah. I can't believe it's going to be, we're already done. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Oh, I can think of a lot of things to do with my hands.
Oh my God. Yeah, so if you want to, you can follow us at Dissect That Film over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/Dissect That Film, where we have a $1 tier where you can get access to our newest episodes up to a week early. Well, more like 5 days early. And we got a lot of great episodes over there. We're actually going to be recording something. Well, as you listen to this, it should already be recorded. But we're going to have some Patreon exclusive reviews over there. We're going to be adding another tier. So, and we got some fun things cooking. So this episode will be out in June, which means Jurassic Park's 30th anniversary is coming up. Yeah. Meaning we're going to be sitting down and probably watching it and doing a commentary track on the original Jurassic Park for its 30th anniversary. So that's very exciting. We already did an episode on it, so we're not going to do it again. So I figured that was the best thing to do, to be able to, for us three to sit down together, watch that amazing movie, and talk over it, because we've seen it a million times.
Yes. I gotta feel I'll just be injecting a lot of like Lego Jurassic Park into that.
It's gonna be good times. But yeah, right now we have a $1 tier. If you want to listen to our episodes nice and early. Yeah. Just make sure to, wherever you listen to us, if you listen to us on Spotify, make sure to leave 5 stars or whatever you think we deserve. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and anywhere else where you can leave a review, please leave a review. Leave us 5 stars if you can. The more 5-star reviews we get, the more, the more we show up on lists that people actually listen to the show. We appreciate everybody who does listen to the show. You guys are the reason why we keep doing this, so thank you very much. Yeah, I got nothing else. You guys got anything else?
No, just like you said, dude, thank you guys very much. We appreciate it. We're having a good time like always, and appreciate all the comments and the support and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Next week, for episode 109, we're going to be venturing into the second chapter of this franchise with Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Until next time, everybody, I am Brett Parker. That is Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming. We are Dissect That Film, and this has been the Dissect That Film podcast, episode 108. We'll see y'all again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.